Keanu Reeves spots a lonely girl buying diapers at Walmart, but what he discovers when he follows her home will break your heart. Why was this young girl shopping for diapers all alone in the dead of night? What shocking truth would Keanu uncover? Stay with us until the end, because you won't want to miss what happens next. It was a quiet, eerie night as Keanu Reeves drove along the empty road on the outskirts of the city. The clock read 9:30 p.m., and he was heading to a filming location for the next morning's shoot. The dark highway stretched endlessly before him, his only companions the rhythmic hum of his engine and the occasional passing car. Then, a sudden warning light. The handbrake alert on his dashboard flickered to life. Keanu frowned, pressing the accelerator, but the car responded sluggishly, losing power with each passing second. Something was wrong. With expert precision, he guided the vehicle to the shoulder before it rolled to a silent stop. Exhaling in frustration, he raked a hand through his hair and switched on the hazard lights. Their rhythmic glow pulsed in the darkness, a silent SOS on the deserted road. He turned the key. Nothing. Tried again. Still nothing. Keanu stepped out into the cool night air, zipping up his jacket as he methodically inspected his car. Tires? Fine. Handbrake? Seemed intact. Engine? No visible damage. But the warning light and sudden shutdown made no sense. With no other options, he reached for his phone. Years of dealing with unpredictable situations had taught him to stay calm under pressure. He dialed roadside assistance, relaying his location with practiced precision. Main Road 101. A quiet arterial road near Willow Creek Hollow. Closest gas station is 10 kilometers north, and there's a Walmart a few blocks away. The dispatcher assured him that help was on the way, but warned it could take time, given the late hour. Then, his heart sank. A flashing alert on his phone. Battery, 5%. If his phone died before help arrived, he'd be completely stranded. He needed a charger fast. His eyes locked onto the neon glow of a Walmart sign in the distance, his only chance to keep his phone alive. Wasting no time, Keanu secured his car and set off toward the store. His footsteps echoed in the stillness, his breath coming faster as he briskly covered the blocks separating him from his goal. As he neared the entrance, the store was nearly deserted, its lights dim, signaling closing time. The automatic doors let out a soft hiss as they slid open, welcoming him into the dimly lit interior. And that's when he saw her. A young girl, no older than 12, standing alone in the baby aisle, clutching a pack of diapers. She moved quickly, eyes darting around nervously, as if she didn't want to be seen. Something about her demeanor, her small frame weighed down by the oversized package, the way she hesitated at the self-checkout, glancing over her shoulder, sent alarm bells ringing in Keanu's mind. Why was she here, all alone, this late at night? Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. And when he decided to follow her home to make sure she got there safely, he uncovered a truth so heartbreaking, it changed everything. Stay with us, because this is one story you won't forget. Keanu Reeves steps into a nearly empty Walmart for a simple purchase, but what he discovers there shakes him to his core. It was supposed to be a quick stop. A charger, a power bank, and he'd be back on the road. But when he spotted a small child alone in the aisle, barely dressed, his night took an unexpected turn. Scanning the store, Keanu found the atmosphere eerily quiet. Not a single customer in sight. The front register was deserted except for a young woman counting cash, her name tag reading Maria. She barely acknowledged him, too focused on closing out the register for the night. Electronics is that way, she muttered, vaguely pointing toward the back. Store closes in 15 minutes. Her disinterested tone made it clear she hadn't recognized him. Not that it mattered. Keanu simply nodded his thanks and headed toward the electronics section, determined to grab what he needed before the store shut down. Then, something caught his eye. A small figure, standing alone in the personal care aisle. Keanu's steps slowed, his brows furrowing as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. A child. no more than 4 or 5 years old. She stood there in nothing but a white tank top and underwear. The harsh fluorescent lights overhead made her look even smaller, more fragile. She clutched her arms around herself as if trying to shield against the cold, or maybe the world. Keanu felt a wave of concern crash over him. His eyes darted around, searching for any sign of a parent. But the surrounding aisles were empty. For a moment, he stood frozen. His mind battled between two pressing needs, his dying phone battery and the safety of this child. Then, he made his choice. Moving carefully, Keanu approached the girl, his footsteps deliberately soft to avoid startling her. As he got closer, he crouched to her level, keeping his voice gentle, reassuring. "Hey there," he said softly. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The girl turned slowly. Her wide eyes met his, filled with a strange mix of curiosity and mistrust. Her lips pressed into a thin, tight line, as if debating whether she could trust him. She didn't answer. Keanu hesitated. He didn't want to scare her, but he needed to know why she was here alone. Before he could speak again, his phone vibrated. A flicker of hope, only to be crushed as his screen went black. His battery had finally died. His last connection to roadside assistance, gone. Now, he was faced with a cruel choice. Stay with the girl, or leave her for just a moment to find help. His chest tightened. The idea of walking away, even briefly, felt wrong. But he needed a phone to call someone, to get real help. "Listen," he said gently, keeping his voice calm despite the urgency gnawing at him. "I need to grab something real quick, but I promise I'll be right back. Can you stay right here for me?" The girl blinked, her expression unreadable. Then, after a long pause, she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Keanu forced a reassuring smile. "I'll be back soon. I promise." But as he walked away, his legs felt heavy with reluctance. His mind raced. Who was she? Why was she alone in a nearly deserted store, dressed like that? And more importantly, where were her parents? Keanu scanned the aisles, searching for a store employee. The silence of the towering shelves felt oppressive, until finally, he spotted someone kneeling in an aisle, organizing inventory. "Excuse me," Keanu called, his voice steady but firm. The worker, a young man in his early 20s, apron slightly askew, looked up, startled. Then, he sighed. "That little thief again," he muttered under his breath. Keanu's expression hardened. "What do you mean by that?" Something wasn't right. And Keanu was about to find out why. Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Keanu Reeves walks into Walmart for a simple purchase, but when he spots a little girl alone in the aisles, his night takes a shocking turn. At first, it was just concern. A small child, alone, under the harsh fluorescent lights. But as Keanu looked closer, something felt wrong. And when he turned his back for just a moment, the girl vanished. Keanu had just found a power bank when he approached the front register. The store was nearly empty, the atmosphere eerily still. Maria, the cashier, barely acknowledged him until she did a double take. Her face lit up in shock. "Oh my God, you're Keanu Reeves," she gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Keanu gave a patient smile, nodding politely. "I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you earlier," she rushed on. "I've been on my feet all day, just trying to close up." "It's okay," Keanu reassured her. "Long shifts can be exhausting." Maria hesitated, then grinned nervously. "Would it be all right if I got a photo with you?" "Just for me, I swear, I won't post it anywhere." Keanu was about to answer when a prickle of unease stopped him. The girl. His eyes flicked back to where he had last seen her with Mark, the store employee. She was gone. For a moment, he let out a quiet breath, assuming Mark had taken her somewhere safe. But then, he saw her again. Alone. This time, she stood in the baby care section, her small figure almost disappearing among the towering shelves. And Mark? Nowhere in sight. Keanu's brows furrowed. Something wasn't adding up. He turned back to Maria, forcing a nod. Of course. Just a quick one. She beamed, hurriedly pulling out her phone and positioning herself next to him. Keanu stood still, but his eyes kept flickering back toward the girl. And that's when he saw it. She was reaching up, stretching her tiny arms toward a high shelf, fingers curling around the edges of 2 packs of diapers. With a practiced movement, she yanked them down. The packages thudded softly to the floor. There was no hesitation, no fumbling. She had done this before. The camera flashed. Keanu barely noticed. His mind was racing. Who was this girl? And why did she move like someone who had been stealing to survive? Something wasn't right. And Keanu wasn't leaving until he got answers. Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Keanu Reeves just wanted to charge his phone. Instead, he found himself caught in a moment that would change everything. As Maria checked the selfie, she practically beamed. Thank you so much. You've made my whole week. Keanu smiled politely, but his mind was elsewhere. The little girl. Her presence in the store still nagged at him, and the absence of Mark, who had promised to help her, made something inside him twist uncomfortably. For a moment, he stood there, debating whether to step in again or simply finish his purchase. Sir? Maria's voice pulled him back. Sorry, how would you like to pay? Keanu blinked, momentarily lost in thought before regaining his composure. Oh, card. As the transaction processed, he grabbed the power bank and plugged it into his phone. The green charging symbol flickered on, and a quiet sense of victory settled over him. At least one immediate problem was solved. But the other problem? That one still stood in the store. Keanu was just about to leave when small footsteps approached the counter. He turned, and there she was. The little girl shuffled forward, her eyes downcast, avoiding everyone's gaze. In her small hands, she clutched 2 packs of diapers. Keanu watched in silent concern as she hesitated for a moment before pulling a crumpled dollar bill from the waistband of her underwear. The bill was wrinkled, worn, as if it had been tucked away for a long time. Maria exhaled softly, her voice gentle but firm. Sweetheart, I'm sorry, but this isn't enough. You need at least $5 more. The girl's eyes widened. Her tiny fingers clenched around the dollar, her posture shrinking, her face a mixture of confusion and quiet shame. Keanu felt something sharp twist in his chest. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. Maria, he said, his voice calm yet resolute. I'll cover the difference. Maria's eyes flicked up in surprise. Mr. Reeves, are you sure? Keanu nodded, already pulling out his wallet. As he handed over the cash, he turned to the girl. His voice was warm, reassuring. Don't worry, you're not alone in this. The girl hesitated, gripping the diapers tightly, before finally looking up at him. For the first time, her gaze met his. Her wide eyes were unreadable, a depth of emotion far beyond her years. Thank you, sir, she said softly. Don't mention it, Keanu replied, his tone gentle. As Maria handed over the diapers, Keanu turned back to her with a new question forming in his mind. Where's Mark? Maria's enthusiasm dimmed slightly, a flicker of unease crossing her face. I'm not sure, he might be finishing stock-taking or in the back storage room. Keanu frowned. Mark told me this little girl has been in the store before. Do you know anything about that? Maria hesitated. She avoided eye contact. Then, without another word, she reached for the store intercom. Mark to the front counter. Mark to the front counter, please. Within moments, Mark appeared. His expression was a mix of confusion and nervousness. Keanu turned to him, his normally calm demeanor tinged with frustration. Mark, he said, his voice low but firm. You promised to help that girl. Why did you leave her alone? Mark shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Maria as if searching for backup. "Well, you see, Mr. Reeves," he stammered. "We've had issues with her before. She comes in, takes things. We can't really do much about it. It's not our responsibility to find her parents or anything." Keanu's jaw tightened. "Not your responsibility," he repeated, his voice laced with disbelief. Mark exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, it's late. We're about to close. I still have stock taking to finish. We can't get involved every time some kid wanders in here." Keanu opened his mouth to respond, but then movement caught his eye. The girl. She was slipping away. Keanu barely had time to react before she was already walking, quickly, toward the exit. "Wait," he called out, but she didn't stop. She moved fast. Too fast. Without another word to Mark or Maria, Keanu took off after her. The automatic doors slid open, the night air rushing in as she stepped outside. Keanu quickened his pace, closing the distance between them. Just as he caught up to her, his phone rang. The screen lit up, casting a glow against the darkness. His heart pounded. Who was calling? And more importantly, could he afford to take his eyes off this little girl? Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Keanu Reeves thought his night was over. But then, he followed a little girl home, and what he saw left him shaken. His phone buzzed in his pocket, the glowing screen displaying a number he recognized. The repair technician. Keanu quickly answered, his voice slightly out of breath. "Hello?" A frustrated but professional voice came through. "Mr. Reeves, where are you? I found your car, but I haven't seen you yet. I've been waiting for a while." Keanu kept his eyes fixed on the girl ahead of him, who had stopped to pick up a fallen pack of diapers. "I'm really sorry," he said quickly. "There was an emergency. I promise I'll be there in 10 minutes. Could you wait?" The tech let out an impatient grunt. "Fine, but don't take too long." Keanu ended the call, his mind racing. The repairman could fix his car, get him back on schedule for tomorrow's shoot. But as he watched the girl, her small frame struggling under the weight of the diapers, walking alone in the dimly lit parking lot, he knew he couldn't just leave her. Keanu picked up his pace, stepping beside her. "Hey," he called out gently. "We never properly introduced ourselves. My name is Keanu. What's yours?" The girl hesitated, her wary eyes flicking up to his before she answered. "Lila." Keanu smiled warmly. "That's a beautiful name, Lila." She said nothing, just clutched the diapers tighter. "Listen," he continued, voice soft. "It's not safe for you to be out here alone. Would it be okay if I walked you home?" Lila considered this for a moment. Then, with a small nod, she kept walking. Keanu fell into step beside her, glancing around at the darkened streets. "Do you live far?" Lila shook her head and pointed. Across the street, past an intersection, stood a rundown neighborhood. The houses were dilapidated, windows cracked, streetlights flickering. Overflowing trash bins lined the sidewalks. Keanu's concern deepened. "You know," he said carefully, "I have a car. It's broken right now, but I have someone fixing it. Would you like to wait with me? Then I could drive you home. It might be safer than walking." Lila stopped abruptly. Her response was immediate. "No." Her voice was small but firm. "Mommy says never go in strangers' cars." Keanu nodded, respecting her caution, even as his worry grew. "That's very smart of you, Lila. Your mom is right about that." She gave a tiny nod. "Okay," he said gently. "Then we'll walk." They moved through the streets in silence. But Keanu's mind wasn't quiet. Something wasn't right. The neighborhood grew increasingly desolate, the homes worn down, some with boarded-up windows. As they reached a particularly neglected house, Lila stopped. She pointed. My home. Keanu's chest tightened. The house was in bad shape. Peeling paint. Overgrown weeds. A sagging porch. No lights on inside. Something about it felt wrong. Before Keanu could say anything, Lila turned to him, her expression blank. You go now. Keanu hesitated. His gut told him this wasn't a place where a child should be alone. Then, his phone rang again. Keanu answered quickly. Mr. Reeves, the repair tech said, clearly exasperated. It's been well over 10 minutes. I can't wait all night. Keanu ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of his conflicting responsibilities. I understand, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm dealing with something urgent. Please, just a little more time. The technician sighed. Time is money, Mr. Reeves. I'll pay extra, Keanu offered immediately. Double your usual rate. Triple, even. Just please, give me a little more time. Silence. Then, finally, the repairman sighed in reluctant agreement. Fine. But make it quick. I won't wait all night, no matter how much you're paying. The call ended. Keanu was still standing in front of Lila's house, his mind racing. What now? He was torn between knocking on the door, demanding answers, and respecting her family's privacy. But before he could decide, Lila reappeared. This time, she was carrying something. A plastic bag. And immediately, Keanu smelled it. His stomach turned. The odor was strong. Foul. Lila, small and frail, walked with quiet efficiency toward the trash bin. And then, she threw the bag inside. Keanu stared, realization creeping in. It was full of used diapers. A little girl. No older than 5. Taking out the trash. Handling something no child should have to deal with. Keanu felt a cold wave rush through him. She was still only wearing a tank top and underwear, standing in the night air, looking too small, too fragile, too alone. He swallowed hard. He couldn't walk away. Keanu took a deep breath, then called out softly. Lila. She turned, her expression unreadable. I'd like to speak with your parents. What happened next? He never could have expected. Stay tuned, because this story is just beginning. Keanu Reeves thought he was just helping a lost child, but what he discovered changed everything. When Keanu asked about her parents, Lila simply said, no parents. His heart sank. Is there any adult inside? She shook her head. Determined to help, Keanu gently asked if he could come inside. After a moment of hesitation, Lila took his hand, a silent plea for help. Inside, the house was pitch black, eerily silent. As Keanu fumbled for a light switch, small footsteps echoed. Lila returned, leading a tiny boy, no older than 2. This is June, she said quietly. My brother. Please help. Keanu's heart clenched. 2 children, alone, neglected, surviving on their own. He knelt, offering a kind smile. How long have you been alone? Lila's voice was soft but matter-of-fact. Mommy come, mommy go. 2 nights, maybe 3. No father. Then, almost as an afterthought, sometimes men come with mommy. Not stay. Keanu swallowed hard. The casual way she described their abandonment hit him like a punch to the gut. Then, her small voice broke through the silence. We hungry. Please help. Keanu had been so consumed with their safety, he hadn't even thought about food. Rushing to the kitchen, he found an empty fridge, a spilled can of baby formula, and milk powder scattered across the shelf, evidence of their desperate attempts to feed themselves. Just then, his phone rang, the repair technician. Keanu was torn. He needed his car fixed, but how could he leave? Making a quick decision, he promised the children he'd return with food. Lila nodded solemnly. We wait. Before leaving, she whispered another request: turn off lights. Mommy doesn't like it on. The weight of her words deepened Keanu's concern. How much fear had these children lived under? Racing back to his car, he convinced the impatient technician to fix it, tipping him generously before heading straight to Walmart, only to find it closed. Undeterred, Keanu found a 24-hour gas station, grabbing whatever food he could: milk, bread, snacks, formula. As he pulled back up to the house, something felt off. Then, he heard it. An angry female voice. Children whimpering. Keanu knocked firmly. The door swung open, revealing a disheveled woman, her eyes bloodshot, swaying unsteadily. Who the hell are you? She slurred. Keanu remained calm. I met Lila at Walmart. I brought food for the kids. Her eyes lit up at the mention of food. She grabbed for the bag, but Keanu held firm. Are the kids okay? He pressed. They were eating milk powder earlier. Her expression darkened. Mind your own business. Then, a man stumbled into view. Waving a small packet of white powder, he laughed. Hey baby, I got the stuff. Let's have some fun. Don't worry about the brats. I beat them enough to stay in their room. Keanu's blood ran cold. Without hesitation, he dialed 911. The woman lunged, trying to grab his phone. The man collapsed, mumbling incoherently. Keanu barely registered the struggle, his eyes locked onto Lila and June, peeking from a darkened doorway. Their fear was unmistakable. The woman snarled at them. Go back inside, you little shits. Lila grabbed her brother's hand and disappeared. The police arrived within minutes. Officers stormed the house. The woman and man were dragged out in handcuffs. Then, Lila broke free from the officers and ran to Keanu. Her voice trembled. Keanu, what happened to Mommy? His heart ached. Your mommy needs help, he said gently. But right now, we need to make sure you and June are safe. Her lower lip quivered. I love Mommy. Can you help her not go to jail? Keanu swallowed the lump in his throat. If she's willing to get better, I'll do everything I can. Sergeant Martinez approached. Mr. Reeves, we need to take the children to the station. A social worker will arrange foster care. We'd appreciate your statement. Keanu didn't hesitate. I'll follow you there. He knelt beside Lila and June. You're not alone. I promise. Before leaving, Keanu handed her a piece of bread and a juice box. Lila clutched it tightly, then, to his surprise, she hugged him. Thank you, she whispered. As Keanu watched the police car pull away, he knew. He wasn't just a bystander anymore. He wouldn't walk away. And he would make sure these children had a future. Some things are more important than work.